Syazwan and Akmal live in the same area. So, yesterday their residential area was entered by robbers. After that, Syazwan calling Akmal throughout his mobile phone to discuss the criminal case. So here was his conversation.
Assalamualaikum. Hello, how are you, Akmal?
Waalaikumsalam Shazwan. I am fine, thank you. How about you?
I'm doing great. Did you hear news last night? Would you mind you tell me about it?
Yo, it is about a crime, bro.
Do you know what is the definition of the crime? Can you tell me?
Okay, basically crime is an illegal action or activity for which a person can be punished by law. Can you tell me a static of case criminal in Malaysia? I just wonder, bro.
Based on my research, from the each past year, I know that the cases increased from the 161 to 2000 more, 2000 something. Yeah.
Wish it is too much case of crime in our country. So dangerous.
Yeah, the crime is bad. So they still do crime, even though we have a law. In your opinion, should we give the punishment to the criminals?
Okay, in my view, we should give punishment for those who doing crime things, and I know they deserve what they did. So if they are doing big crime, they have to face the big punishment by government. So do not play with our government law. So be careful, dude. So do you agree with my opinion about punishment to the criminals?
Yeah, I do agree with you. Even in Islam, if you are doing criminal, you will be punishment. For example, if you are stealing, your hand will be cut. In Islam we call it qisas. Would you mind to summarize our conversation about crime?
In conclusion, we have to be aware and careful with stranger outside because we never know what will happen to us. Moreover, we should avoid from being criminals because it can ruin our future life. So just be a good people and nice people.
So, okay, bro. See you next time.
Okay, Shaz, be careful with outside and I hope to see you again. And bye. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thanks, bro. You too.
Assalamualaikum to my beloved teacher, Madam Aidazura. My name is Suraya Jasmine and this is my partner,
Ratul,
and we are from 5 Diamond. Our topic for today is about crime. For not wasting any more time, please let us begin.
Jasmine, do you think crime is a problem where you live? What sort of crimes are committed?
Thank you for your question, Protul. From my point of view, crime in my residential area is not very serious, considering I live in so-called rural areas. However, I would not say that there are no criminals here. As far as I'm concerned, home robbery is the most often crime happens here. The criminals always aim for the terrace house because it's easier for them to invade the house. But Protul, I would like to know, have you ever witnessed or been a victim of a crime?
Thank you for your concern, Raya. Fortunately, no. But last week, we almost lost our beloved python called Batik. Someone tried to steal him as we were looking for Batik for 20 minutes. Luckily, he was under the table in our storeroom. The robber left a stick behind and a red fingerprint. We can conclude that Batik was being so aggressive and the robber let him go. Yeah, that was so lethargic.
Oh my god, I guess that is the most unforgettable moment for you and your family, right?
Yes, very much.
Yeah.
Jasmine,
Yes.
what do you think, and what can communities do to help reduce crime in their area? Do you have
Wow,
any suggestions?
that's a very great question, and I have few suggestions actually. From my perspective, our community can actually encourage neighbors to
Mm-hmm.
protect their home, because we have to do our part to deter burglaries by investing in a home security system and encouraging our neighbors to do the same. For an example, we could advise them to put on some security cameras such as CCTV around their house or a burglar alarm. I
Mm-hmm.
believe this somehow could reduce the crime in our residential area, because it will make the criminals feel afraid to
Mm-hmm.
do their crime. Yeah, I think that's my opinion for what can community do to help reduce crime. And Krotu,
Yes.
what things do you think that cause people to turn into crime?
Thank you for the second question, Raya.
Yeah.
In my point of view,
Yes.
many of them got influenced by bad habit from their friends and family. It's a major fact,
Oh, I
actually.
see.
As an example, one of the
Mm-hmm.
family member or friends is a drug pusher, and
Mm-hmm.
they might be the biggest reason for them to become a drug pusher also.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I think you got a good point there.
Yeah, thank you very
So,
much. Okay, Jasmine,
yes, Krotu.
I want to ask you one of the last question.
Oh, can.
Do you think prisons should train prisoners so they can start a new career when they leave
Wow, that's
and
a
study?
very tough question actually.
Yes,
But
thank you.
yes, I think according to my way of thinking, I agreed that prisons should train their prisoners some skills while they are being punished in the prison.
Mm-hmm.
Just to let you know, I heard that some prisons in Malaysia already
Mm-hmm.
teach the prisoners on how to sew Malaysian traditional cloth named songket. And
Wow.
then the clothes that they sew, they will sell it to a local vendor. So I think that's a good move to make them prisoners have a new point in their life after get out from the prison. And I
Mm-hmm.
believe everybody deserve to know something new to build their career back.
Mm-hmm.
But I would like to know your opinion also about this.
Oh, okay. It was a massive point.
Oh, thank you
Thank you
so much.
very much. In the other hand, I
Yes.
believe someone can change if we give them a second chance. We must support
Yeah, a
them
second chance.
buying their
Yeah.
because they have to build their own life, like you said, right? And leave the past
Yeah.
behind. They have to open a new
Oh,
book
yes.
and left behind the old
That's a
book.
very good positive vibe from you.
Thank you.
To conclude our discussion for today, I would like to give my 2 cents about whether the punishment given to the criminals are helpful in order to reduce the crime rate or not. To be honest, I want to say those criminals actually deserve all the punishment that they got in the prison. It is
Mm-hmm.
because they need to be responsible for their wrongdoings. They
Mm-hmm.
put a risk to innocent people's life. So
Yes.
I am 100% agree for them to be punished commensurate with the crime that they did. So
Mm-hmm.
I think I do believe that punishment can decrease the crime rate in our country. What do you think, Roto?
Oh, it was a nice one.
Oh, thank you so much.
For me, it's a
Yeah,
win-win situation too between the
yeah.
criminals and the public people because both can learn from their mistakes and
Mhm.
creating a more responsibility community. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's all.
I think that's
Alhamdulillah.
a very good discussion we had just now. So
Yes.
that's all from us.
Thank
Thank you
you so
so
much
much
from
from us.
us. Bye.
Bye bye.
Hi, my name is Nur Aina Mardia Mitirayan. I am from 5 Diamond. This is my video. Enjoy! Crime is an action or omission which constitutes an offense and is punishable by law. When I talk about crimes, there is this one specific person came into my mind. There is no other than Ted Bundy. Who is Ted Bundy? Ted Bundy or Theodore Robert Bundy was an American serial killer who kidnapped, raped, and murdered numerous young women and girls during 1970s and possibly earlier. After more than a decade of denials, he confessed to 30 homicides committed in 7 states between 1974 and 1978. His true victim total is unknown and believed by some investigators to be higher. The first time he was caught was in Utah in August 1975. Bundy was convicted of attempted kidnapping and sentenced to 15 years in prison. He was extradited to Colorado to face charges there, but escaped twice. After Bundy's second escape from prison, he eventually made his way to Tallahassee, Florida. On the night of January 14, 1978, Bundy broke into the Chi Omega sorority house at Florida State University. He attacked 4 of the young female residents, killing 2 of them. On February 9, Bundy kidnapped and murdered a 12-year-old girl named Kimberly Leach. These crimes marked the end of his murderous rampage, as he was soon pulled over by the police that February. In my opinion, this type of punishment can't reduce the crime rate. Clearly, Bundy repeated the same crime over and over again. As the saying goes, the first time it was a mistake, the second time it was a choice. In January 24, 1989, he was executed in an electric chair. It was reported that he spent the night crying and praying. And when he was led to the death chamber, his face was silent and grey. Any hint of the old charismatic Bundy was gone. Can this punishment reduce the crime rate? I'd say it depends. It depends on the person. Some people already learned their lesson and they will not repeat it again. But some may will repeat. I was listening to Coldplay's Fix You while I was researching about Ted Bundy. I promise I will learn from my mistakes. That's all from me. Thank you.
Hi and Assalamualaikum. I am Amalina
And my name is Shamini.
and we are from 5 Diamond. First and foremost, what is crime? A crime is an offense against a public law. This word, in its most general sense, includes all offenses, but in its more limited sense is confined to felony. The term offense may be considered as having the same meaning. but is usually understood to be a crime not indictable but punishable similarly or by the forfeiture of a penalty. There are a plethora types of crime. Of course, I'm not going to explain into too detail about that because I'm not a law student obviously. Anyway, I'm going to tell you the classification of crime as in general. First of all, drug crimes. The drug crime category encompasses a range of offences connected with the use, transportation, purchase and sale of illegal drugs. Second, street crime. The most common forms of predatory crime, rape, robbery, assault, burglary, larceny and auto theft, occur most frequently on urban streets. Racial minority citizens account for a disproportionately high number of the arrests for street crimes. Next, organized crime. The term organized crime refers to the illegal goods and services. Then, political crime. The political crime category contains both crimes by the government and crimes against the government. Political goals motivate political criminals. Furthermore, victimless crime, consensual acts and violations in which only the perpetrator is hurt, such as the personal use of illegal drugs, are called victimless crimes. Finally, white-collar crime. White-collar crimes are offences that persons commit while acting in their legitimate jobs and professions. White-collar criminals behave in unethical ways for the self-gain or for the benefit of a business. Victims of white-collar crime include the economy, employers, consumers, and the environment.
As you know, if there is crime, there must be punishment given. What is punishment? Punishment commonly is the imposition of undesirable or unpleasant outcome upon a group or individual, meted out by an authority in context ranging from child discipline to criminal law as a response and deterrent to a particular action or behavior. It is, however, possible to distinguish between various different understandings of what punishment is. Let me tell you what types of punishment is. First, traffic ticket for speeding and parking. They will be marked on your driving record or you'll be involved paying a fine. Second, license suspension for drunk driving. Their driving right got removed for a certain period of time. Next, a jail time. For example, a man who assaults his wife, he needs to spend a certain amount of months or years locked away from the society. Lastly, life in the prison. A woman who commits homicide have to spend the rest of one's life in prison with no chance of going back to the society. For your information, the punishment given is not arbitrary, but based on the law. There is 5 purposes of punishment. First, deterrence. Deterrence prevents future crime by frightening the defendant or the public. The 2 types of deterrence are specific and general deterrence. Specific deterrence applies to an individual defendant. When the government punishes an individual defendant, he or she is theoretically less likely to commit another crime because of fear of another similar or worse punishment. General deterrence applies to the public at large. When the public learns of an individual defendant punishment, the public is theoretically less likely to commit a crime because of fear of the punishment the defendant experiences. When the public learns, for example, that an individual defendant was severely punished by a sentence of life in prison or the death penalty, this knowledge can inspire a deep fear of criminal prosecution. Second, incapacitation prevents future crime by removing the defendant from society. Examples for incapacitation are incarceration, house arrest, or execution pursuant to the death penalty. Next, rehabilitation prevents future crime by altering a defendant's behavior. Examples of rehabilitation include educational and vocational programs, treatment center placement, and counseling. Moreover, Retribution prevents future crime by removing the desire for personal avengement against the defendant. When victim or society discover that the defendant has been adequately punished for a crime, they achieve a certain satisfaction that our criminal proceeding is working effectively, which enhances faith in law enforcement and our government. Lastly, restitution. Restitution prevents future crime by punishing the defendant financially. Restitution can be for physical injuries, loss of property or money, and rarely emotional distress.
The question is, do the punishments given to the criminals are helpful in order to reduce the crime rate? From my perspective, there is no relationship between punishment and crime rate reduction. As evidence, there are a few studies have been carried out by the responsible party regarding this case. Take one example, a 199 study that examined the execution and homicide rates in Texas. The study found that the number of executions of the death penalty did not affect the murder case in that state. What's to be shown here is that the results of the study could not clearly prove that there is a link between the death penalty and crime rate reduction. To reduce crime, punishment alone is not enough to be used as a crime prevention excuse.
In my opinion, the punishment given to the criminal are helpful in order to reduce the crime rate. It's because when the government punishes an individual defendant, he or she is theoretically less likely to commit another crime because of fear of another similar or more worse than before. For example, the criminal who in jail know how worse it is in there. They can live happily because there will be someone monitoring them. What is the most heartbreaking is they can see their family every day. Moreover, when they got released, they will suffer mentally by the society. Most of the society tend to blacklist all ex-convicts. From that, they can get a job for a living. They will be grateful if their family accept them back. If not, for all of these reasons, they will not do this crime again because they will face the worst punishment from before. Every crime has different punishment. Even they do a petty crime, the punishment will not be missed.
I think you are right about that. Furthermore, the criminal acts can be done by anyone, including the responsible party themselves. For instance, two policemen were jailed for 50 and 47 months, fined Rm 30,000 after being found guilty of accepting bribes for 3K in cash as an inducement not to take any actions against the Operation Massage Parlor. Here's the thing, they are a policeman. Of course, they know what follows the rule and vice versa. In addition, they knew what are the punishments for every crime. Although they have knowledge about it, they are still being ignorant and commit a crime without a sense of guilt. Therefore, do the punishments given to the criminals are helpful in reducing the crime rate? The answer is yes and no. Why? Well, it really depends on the quality of the punishments given, the criminal himself, and the society.
In conclusion, not all ex-prisoners live bad life. There are also people who can help them recover from mistakes. The success of the criminal justice system in Malaysia in setting up an intermediary home program for ex-prisoners is an initiative to be proud of it. It is in line with the effort of very developed countries in providing halfway house for ex-prisoners. The main idea is to ensure the transition of ex-prisoners runs smoothly from life in jail to joining the community. This halfway house is so important especially for ex-prisoners who have no home to live in after their release. One of the reasons is due to family rejection.
At the end of the day, we are all humans and we can never escape from doing mistakes. For this reason, is it fair for the ex-prisoners to stay being judged by the society from their past wrongdoings? Yes, we have to be aware, but just throwing them out from the society is the best way to take revenge on them? No, it's not. They deserve respect and love as well. As I said, we are all mistake doers. However, can we control ourselves from repeating the same mistakes over and over again? Yes, we can't. Similarly, is it possible for the ex-convicts to stop doing the criminal acts after they have been punished? Yes, of course. What I want to emphasize here is it's not easy to reduce the crime rate, but what we can do are stop judging and support everyone, no matter who they are, as long as they are trying to improve themselves to be a better person.
That's all from me. Thank you.
Hence, that is the end of our discussion. Bye.
Assalamualaikum and hi, my name is Amalia Amira and
Hello, my name is Anis Fatiha and we are from 5 Diamonds. Crime is a serious act that can threaten the safety and also the security of a society. No matter what crime is committed, it is against the law and the criminal should be punished. We can see the examples of crimes that often occur in Malaysia, such as kidnapping. Minors who are victims of most these abduction cases will bring in fear to the adult children to live their life freely. So here, we will be discussing our opinions about does sentencing a punishment helps in reducing crime cases.
first of all, why do you think people commit offense?
In my opinion, those who commit these offenses or crimes are in fact not their will exactly. Sometimes we know that these things also could happen due to lack of love from the family and eventually they turn into someone else. Moreover, the offense or crime that occurs will not only cause danger to others but will also threaten one's own life. They feel depressed, do not get attention from their parents, and especially when they're hanging out with friends who are involved in unhealthy symptoms. Such a frequent example that we can see in our country is a drug addiction that will cause them to feel free and do whatever they wanted to do because they think that their friend can give them what they want. And finally, a lot of crime is happening in our country, and until this day, crime is still widespread.
Oh, I see.
So now let me ask you, what do you think about the action that should have been taken by the government to prevent criminals from committing crime?
The actions that should have been taken by the government is to treat violence as a public health concern. They should move away from the focus on poverty and instead make fixation on general problems. The government also need to handle male violence more effectively but treat male and female violence as the same issue. Anis, do you think the punishments given to the criminals are helpful in order to reduce the crime rate?
If you ask me, I don't feel that by just sentencing criminals, criminal cases in this country will be reduced. This is because detainees released from prison are more likely to repeat the same crime they once commit. Instead, there are the other ways that can be used. From my point of view, crime needs to be seen as a disease that needs to be treated and cured, and not all of it can be dealt with punishment. The concentration of sentencing aspects and reliance on the rule of law should be reduced. Sometimes, punishments will only worsen the situation and hamper efforts to fight crime, in addition to wasting energy and cost. For the example, such as drug addiction, which is the drug addict should be treated and given support to recover rather than punished, as well as cases of suicide attempts that should be dealt with recovery measures because those who already given up on this, it will be really hard for them to accept. Punishment may be satisfactory yet incurable.
60% of prison inmates are drug addicts. Instead of handing down sentences that are not certain to reduce crime, it is better for them to be treated, cared for, and a more rehabilitation programs held for them. However, crime usually occurs because of the parents themselves.
Moreover, there are also parents who are angry and hateful towards their children, who are put in prison so much until they do not consider them as their child anymore. Because of that, most prisoners who come out of prison will repeat the same mistakes. So we can clearly see that punishment only is not the best way to reducing crime. Okay, how about you, Amalia? How do you think?
In my opinion, I think that it does not help in reducing the crime rates. Punishment does not determine one to stop themselves to carry out crime activities. There's a research done in 1999 about the relation between death sentencing and the rate of killing in Texas. It is found that the number of execution of death penalty doesn't affect the rate of murder in Texas. Instead of giving punishments, we should create well-targeted programs. As example, stop homicide programs. The goal is just as the name sounds. It should be launched in hotspot areas and focusing on the group of people who are most likely to commit homicide. This way, crime rates can be reduced. It might not have huge impact, but it helps in crime rate reduction.
So that's our opinion. We both think that by the sentencing a punishment, criminal cases in this country will not be reduced.
There are other ways that can prevent crime from spreading. Sometimes, punishments will not solve the problem, but instead will continue and lead a crime.
Yes, exactly. But there are also offenses that must be punished, such as hudud punishment, or else we can call it death sentencing, as a reminder to others from not continuing committing crime.
Before we end the discussion, we would like to show you a video of a talk between a murderer and a psychologist.
Did you kill your mother?
Yeah.
You killed your mother. And why did you kill her?
She wasn't taking care of my family.
Meaning you and your brother?
Yeah.
Is that who you mean? And so because she wasn't taking care of you and your family, you decided to kill her. Did you think about discussing it with her instead of killing her?
I didn't think it wouldn't do anything.
You thought it won't do any good to talk to her, so I'll just kill her. When did you decide to kill your mother?
I decided the day I did it.
And the method you chose was what?
Beating her to death.
And you beat her to death with what?
Sledgehammer.
And how many times did you hit her with the sledgehammer?
I don't remember.
About. Did you hit her once, or did you hit her 10 times or 100 times?
I'd say about 20 times.
Was this a 3-pound sledgehammer, 5-pound sledgehammer?
I don't know.
Heavy?
Yeah.
Way bigger than a hammer. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And where did you hit her?
In the head.
Where was she when you did this?
She was in her room.
What was she doing?
She was asleep.
Okay, so your mother was asleep
That's all from us. Thank you.
The most basic definition of a crime is an action of omission which constitutes an offence and is punishable by law. Generally, the government must enact a criminal law specifying a crime and its element before it can punish an individual for a criminal behavior. Moving on to the causes of crimes, first factor that causes rising crimes in Malaysia is poverty. Basic needs such as house, healthcare, education, and employment may force individuals in this category to commit crimes. Since most of Malaysians receive an average or median monthly incomes, the reality of poverty does not reflect obviously in our country. For example, earning a monthly income in a village area may give someone able to live comfortably, while the same amount of income however will not be sufficient for those who live in big cities due to the high cost of living. Income inequality caused by imbalance of economy, development and the lack of job opportunities due to the slow and unstable economy has contributed to poverty. The poor, which is burdened with debt, are less educated, have limited health coverage, and a bigger family to take care of, are more at risk to succumb to crimes. Family background is one of the causes of crimes as well. Family is also a weak point of any person who is about to commit crimes. If you are not being able to provide for the entire family as a poor person, at one point in time, you will think at walking in the negative path to get what your family needs. In more cases, when people are asked, they claim they need negative path to get what your family needs. Many young people engage in criminal activities for believing it is their responsibility to take care of the family even if it means to commit a felony. There are a few ways to handle this issue, such as treat violence as a public health concern. We need to use campaign and technology to reach every child and family. We need to develop those tools to make sure that everybody feels important and cared for through parenting interventions, family interventions, well-being interventions, and early childhood educations. Not only that, we also can create well-targeted programs. If the goal is to reduce homicides, then program selection should be located in hotspot areas and focused on the population groups most likely to commit violent crimes. For example, young males between 10 to 29 years old. The risk factors for why these young men get involved in criminality also needs to be clearly diagnosed, with a treatment plan that involves the family and community. This is one way to do the crime reduction related programs.
Punishment. How does a Malaysian judge decide what punishment to give a criminal? We always read about Malaysians getting punished for crime through a various way. For example, you can get fined for traffic offence, time for robbery, maybe for certain hardcore crime, or even the death sentence. This, it seems like there are really long lists of ways to punish criminals in Malaysia. However, there are technically only 6 core types of punishment in Malaysia, and they are guided by 3 main principles. The 6 kinds of punishment in Malaysia. The punishments are determined by relevant law and are meted out according various mitigating and aggravating factors. A mitigating factor is something that will convince the judge to lighten your sentence by showing remorse or being first-time offender. An aggravating factor is something that will convince the judge to give you a heavy sentence that whether violence was used or if the crime is rampant.
Death sentence. Malaysia still practice the death sentence and it is reserved for crimes such as murder, drug trafficking, causing murder, certain act of terrorism, or treason. Whipping. The whipping here is not like the kind we used to reserve as kids where red marks linger for days, but the whipping that prisoners go through are capable of tearing their skin and cutting into the muscle. court can only sentence a maximum of 24 strokes for any offense. Aside from that, there are certain group of people that cannot be whipped, such as women, prisoners sentenced to death, men above the age of 15, except those who has been convicted of certain offense. There are a bunch of sections in the penal code that contain offences that allow the court to impose whipping sentence on men above the age of 15, and there are basically sexual offences like rape or inciting a child to commit an act of gross indecency. Imprisonment. There are generally two types of imprisonment, for life or for a fixed term. Usually we use the word imprisonment for life to mean one thing, but in actuality, imprisonment for life and life imprisonment are two different things in Malaysia. Imprisonment for life means that it is until death, while life imprisonment extends up to 20 years in prison. This means that you can spend up to 20 years in jail. Police supervision. Except for getting double jail time, repeat offender can also be sentenced to police supervision after the completion of their jail sentence. This is not to be confused with parole. Parole happens when the prisoners are allowed to serve out the remainder of their jail terms outside prison. While reporting to their parole officer, police supervision, on the other hand, takes place after you complete your sentence. Fines and compensation. Fines are pretty straightforward. Judges can impose the fine when the law allows for it and give you a reasonable time to pay it. If you fail to pay the fine with the stipulated times, the court are allowed to throw you in jail instead. Good behavior bonds. What it means is that if you have been found guilty of an offense, the court can choose to allow you to pay a certain amount of money into court, and in return, the court will impose certain conditions in the bond that you will have to adhere to for a certain number of years. The condition imposed will be geared toward ensuring that you will be on your best behavior, and then you will be allowed to evade jail time.
Is the punishment given to the criminals are helpful in order to reduce the crime rates or not? Over the past few dozen millennia, society has used punishment to deter people from committing crimes. However, in the civilized age, some people are beginning to question the effectiveness of severe punishment. Crimes can determine everything. If a mistake of fact makes it such that this or some other element is not present, you have a defense and cannot be convicted. Not only must you take mistake from fact negate an element of crime, it must also be an honest mistake. However, crimes that are made by mistake can be punished in different ways, such as giving them a proper and prepare an interesting way of education to get to them, or give them a proper counseling and guidance to make them learn from their mistakes. People are also turning it to another alternative, such as education. Education certainly appears to be a more ideal method to prevent from crimes. It is moral, passive, and doesn't require locking people up in jail. But is it really the most effective way for a crime that is severe? I don't think so. We don't live in a utopia where everyone cares for the well-being of society. Regrettably, we humans are naturally prone to selfishness and greed. Who hasn't been taught since kindergarten that stealing is naughty? Yet, it doesn't seem to bother thieves or robbers very much. Littering is bad, drink driving is dangerous. We have heard it all, whether from school, our parents, or the government. Only after people were fined for littering or imprisoned for taking a swig of alcohol before driving did we all see results. Criminals are often influenced by factors outside school or government. Being well educated won't sway them from severe crimes. The only feasible way to prevent such people from committing severe crimes is by presenting a deterrent greater than the criminals' incentive to break the law. And the deterrent would have to be severe punishment. It may not be a foolproof and it may seem harsh at times, but it is by far the best way to prevent crimes from happening.
Overall, our perspective based on this question is neutral. Certain punishments seem to have caused a shock among them, causing fear and stopping them from doing so, although some still refuse to accept the reality. Like I mentioned above, people all around the world naturally prone to selfishness. On the other way, some people think that they can hide after committing crimes. An amount of the punishment could still be modified and made even more strong to avoid more criminal activities. To conclude, in order for a society to be a safe place to live in, all society's members, including the government and people, must take necessary measurements to keep it a crime-free place.
Mohammed Nun 5 Diamond Project Crime.
Definition of crime. A crime is a conduct provided by the state to which a punishment has been attached because the conduct is regarded by the state as being criminal. These from commonly grouped crime into several major categories. First, violence, property crime. Third, white-collar crime. For example, violent crime, even if as our earlier discussion indicated, the news media exaggerate the problem of violent crime, it remains true the violent crime plagues many communities around the country and is the type of crime that most concern Americans. The news story that began this chapter reminds us that violent crime is all too real to many people. It traps some people inside their homes and makes others afraid to let their children play outside or even to walk to school. Rape and sexual assault are common concern for many women and leads them to be careful of being victimized than men. I avoid being a violent crime victim. The National Crime Prevention Council advises: tell someone where you're going and when you will turn. Stay alert and tune in to your surroundings. Trust your instincts. Know the neighborhoods where you live, go to school and shop. Stick to well-traveled streets. Avoid shortcuts. Carry only the money you will need on the particular day. Don't display large amount of cash.
Assalamualaikum everyone, my name is Siti Sazwana binti Mahasan and I am from 5 Diamond. Today I'm going to talk about a certain topic, which is whether the punishment given to the criminal does help to reduce our crime rate or not. For your information, our punishment can be decided by the law, so I'm going to introduce to you briefly about law. So law ensure our rights as citizens against abuses by other people, an organization, or by the government itself. So we can use law as our general safety. Next, I'm going to talk about my opinion on this topic, which is types of punishment and whether they help to reduce our crime rate or not. There are many types of punishment that can be given to a criminal, and one of them is for those who drive under influence. So I'm going to talk about that. In this case, there can be two types of influence, which is under drug and under alcohol. So I'm going to talk about alcohol. If you drive under influence by alcohol, you can get fined from 10 to 50,000, and then you'll also get sent to jail from 10 to 15 years. Not only that, your driving license also will be taken off by the government up to 10 years. Hence, I think that this punishment is reasonable enough for those who drive under influence, and this is a very fair point. Also, if your driver license be taken off for 10 years, you can't drive anymore. Hence, the same mistakes, the same incidents, the same crime won't repeat again, because you can't drive your car without a license, without a driving license. So I think this punishment does help to reduce our crime rate in Malaysia. Next, I'm gonna talk about the second punishment, which is whipping. Whipping is under the Islamic law, and they can be given to those who did illegal intercourse for couples who are not married yet, which is zina. And for this case, you can get whipped if you sexually harass someone, if you rape someone without their consent, and gambling, drink alcohol, you can get whipped from 1 to 24 strokes. And the strokes will be given at once, which is very painful, and I think this is a very fair punishment because this is based on our Islamic law. Hence, I think that this does help to reduce our crime in Malaysia. That's all from me. Next, I'm gonna let my partner Nuzakira Maisara to present her opinion on this topic.
A massive thank you to Sazwana for your wonderful elaboration. Now, I will continue to elaborate my discovery from my own point of view. So, as we all know, a person who has committed crimes such as robbery, theft, and many more can be sentenced to prison. However, they can be released on bail, which is provided by the guarantor after it has complied with all the rules set by the court. When deciding whether the offender gets bail or not, the court will go through at the offender background and see what he or she has done. To prevent them from affecting the public, the offender might not get bail if the offender is an adult and charged with drugs offense. In my opinion, it is an important decision made by the court to prevent from any future harm happen in the society. And I agree to not put any favoritism to the rich nor to the poor when it comes to the bailing. Next in my list is case involving the killing between 2 or more people. While few of these incidents seems to be clear on which side is supposed to be winning, this isn't always the case because there are a law known as the capital punishment, also called as the death penalty. And of course, after the conviction by a court of law of a criminal offense, before any decision on the case was made, there will be several investigations that have to be done from various ways, mainly from a clear media source such as video, to determine whether he or she is actually attempting to kill their target. For instance, a person who killed their attacker by accident for the sake of saving themselves should be released after a prior police investigation because they did not intend to kill the attacker. And if the media source clearly shows that he or she attempted to kill their target intentionally, for instance, drug dealer, which is one of the highest in percentage when it comes to murdering, they will have to go for a death sentence since they have the ability to ruin the society and also the new generation which will govern the government for the next decade. In conclusion, criminal strict punishment will have preventive and deterrent effect on all age groups in society. Thus, by using penalties like imprisonment, physical and financial punishment will significantly reduce the rate of crime. And investigation is highly needed to ensure no false information have been provided. Last word from me and my partner. We hope this article has the answer for all of your questions and give benefit to all of us. Thank you for lending me your ears.
Assalamualaikum and hi everyone, my name is Nur Aina Nafisa binti Muhammad Sahir
And my name is Nur Sufiratul Ain binti Muhammad Noh from 5 Diamond. Today we're talking about sexual harassment. What is sexual harassment? According to Wikipedia, a type of harassment involving the use of explicit and implicit sexual harassment overtones, including the unwelcome and inappropriate promise of reward in exchange for sexual favor, includes a range of action from verbal transaction to sexual abuse or assault.
Second, why sexual harassment happen? The embodiment of power relation women are more likely to be victims of sex properly because they more often use men who lack power, are in a more vulnerable and insecure position, are insecure or have socialized suffering in silence. For the needs of women, most of the sexual differences, it is important to look at some of the main causes of this phenomenon.
There's a lot of types of sexual harassment, so we're gonna share 3 types of sexual harassment for today. Firstly, feeling pressure to engage with someone sexually. Secondly, exposing oneself or performing sexual act on oneself. Thirdly, unwanted sexual explicit photo, emails or text messages.
Next, where can sexual harassment occur? The workplace or learning environment like a school or university. It can be happen in many different scenarios, including after-hour conversations, exchange in the hallways, and non-office settings of employees or peers.
Furthermore, how can sexual harassment affect? Sexual harassment can affect our emotional, mental health, and physical. From mental health, we can get anxiety and depression. From physical, we can get sleep disorder and headache. And lastly, from emotional, we can get trauma and aggressive behavior.
Lastly, court punishment for sexual harassment. Based on Penal Code 574, Section 509, imprison for 5 years or pay a fine of 15,000 ringgit or both. That's all from us. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and hi. My name is Putra Muhammad Adam bin Muhammad Fadli and I'm from 5 Diamond. I'm here to talk about different perspectives of criminal punishment. There's 2 sections that I want to talk about. But first, I will tell you about crime. Crime is a behavior either by action or omission defined by statutory or common law as deserving of punishment. Crimes are prosecuted by government attorneys. Such attorneys may represent a city, country, state, or federal government. In the simple word, crime is a legal thing that have been done by the culprits. Now, I will tell you about criminal. Criminal is an individual who has been found guilty of the commission of conduct that causes social harm and that is punishable by law. In other words, criminal is a person who committed a crime, such as robbing and land encroachment. Alright, now let's talk about different perspectives of criminal punishment. I will talk about a point of citizen view first. A large number of people agreeing the punishment. They told that the criminal must be punished by what they deserve to. This means to teach the community that the unlawful acts are wrong. In addition, it will give a lesson to criminal. Furthermore, it can decrease a crime because they know what they will get if they do it. But not everyone agree with that opinion. They've been called as anti-punishment group. They think that if we punish the criminal, he will be counted as crime too. This is because they think that the punishment is cruel and violence. This will affect the enforcer, government, and even the country. But not all they say is wrong. Sometimes the enforcer make it over to limit. That will make a bad perspective to the enforcer and the criminal punishment. Now I will talk about religion perspective regarding criminal punishment. There was 3 religions that I will talk about. It is Islam, Hinduism, and Buddhism. Firstly, Islam. Islam is based on fiqh. The law is accordance with Sharia. Sharia is the law that have been said by Quran and Hadith. There was 3 punishment categories in Islam. First, we have hudud. Hudud is crime against God. The example of hudud punishment is stoning and hand cutting. Secondly is qisas. Qisas is a retaliation in kind. Those who are entitled to qisas have the option to receiving monetary compensation or granting pardon to the perpetrator instead. Lastly is tazir, usually corporal, that can be administered at the discretion of the judge as opposite to the hudud. The punishment for certain offenses that are fixed by the Quran or Hadith. Those 3 punishments have been used by sort of countries such as Pakistan, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and United Arab Emirates. The second religion that I want to talk about is Hinduism. The criminal punishment for Hinduism is danda. Danda is the Hindu term for punishment. In the ancient India, punishment were generally sanctioned by ruler, but other legal officials could also play a part. The punishment that were handed out were in response to criminal activity. In the Hindu law tradition, there is a counterpart to danda, which is prayashita or autonomy. Whereas danda is sanctioned primarily by the king, prayashita is taken up by a person upon his or her own volition. Alright, the last religion that I want to explain is Buddhism. The death penalty is clearly against Buddhist teaching. Buddhists place great emphasis on non-violence and compassion for all life. The first precept requires individuals to abstain from injuring or killing any living creature. The Buddha did not explicitly speak about capital punishment, but his teaching showed no sympathy for physical punishment, no matter how bad the crime is. To conclude the explanation, punishment have been supported by 80% around the world. With a punishment to the criminal, we can decrease the number of crime in our country from time to time. I think that's all I know. Remember, crime can affect the future. Alright, that's all from me. Thanks for listening my explanation, and later then.